CoffeeZilla.
This is one of the most miserable, horrible launches I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, then why the are you on?
CoffeeZilla got on there. That scary guy, let me tell you. Don't ever want to have a conversation with him.
Here's the message I got from her lawyer. Hailey would like to have you on as a guest on her podcast. You'd be the first guest since the failed crypto token launch and would get significant amount of views, would be very friendly.
That hawk and spit on that thing.
Hello everyone, and today we're going to be talking about someone you probably heard about before. Their meme went super mega viral, and the name of that meme was Tuah. For those of you who may not have heard about it or unaware of her initial rise to fame, she was an overnight sensation. A few YouTubers stopped her on the street and asked her one simple question.
What's one move in bed that makes a man go crazy every time?
Oh, you gotta give him that hawk and spit on that thing, you get me?
And after that, her world completely turned upside down. Suddenly, she's having all these interviews and people wanted to talk to her. Then, Jake Paul reaches out and they create the Tuah podcast. And this is where our story really begins, because you need to talk Tuah before you walk Tuah. And people started to see her personality. You know, she's a character. And eventually, she decided, you know what? It's time to create a cryptocurrency.
That would be this by Bubble Maps, which showed 96% of the supply was controlled by the team and was being sent out to a bunch of smaller wallets. The implication being that some of them might be dumping on you, which said team hasn't sold one token and not one key opinion leader was given one free token. We tried to stop snipers as best we could through high fees at the start of the launch. The team hasn't sold one token, and then they post obviously a screenshot of a lot of sells from insiders who did not have to pay. You can see on the bot side there's nothing, and then on the sold side they're making a lot of money. So how did you get free tokens? Well, you were an insider, right? They pre-sold the tokens, guys. They sold them to a bunch of investors with a pre-sale, and then those people were unlocked immediately upon launch.
To sort of explain what Coffee was saying in more layman's terms is, think of a pyramid scheme. The people at the top make the most money. People at the top in this situation are the insiders or investors. The people who paid next to nothing or zero for their tokens to begin with and made off with hundreds of thousands of dollars.
If they sold out the whole 17%, you're looking at about $2.8 million raised by pre-selling these tokens. So it is essentially a lie to say her team didn't sell tokens. Well, they pre-sold them, and then those investors dumped on your fans. In 24 hours, they made almost $2 million from this fee. Meanwhile, on Dex Screener, you can see the sniper, which is the #1 trader on this coin. They made about $1.3 million in their total profits and loss. So they actually made less in total profits, this sniper that ruined the project, than the team made on fees.
And the team tries to say that these fees were to stop snipers, and later they say it's to pay for the project itself, but that all sounds a little sketchy because of how many millions of dollars they made in fees. And a sniper, for those of you who don't know, in crypto specifically, they are people who are essentially scalpers. Scalpers in Pokemon cards, snipers in crypto. They scoop up as much as they can for the smallest price and then resell it. Coffee does try to confront them on a Twitter Spaces, but it doesn't go very well.
Most of you, we don't want you in the community. Let's be real, right? You're not great people. I don't know y'all, right? I see some friendly faces in this audience.
He's having a meltdown.
I think crypto brings the mentally ill into this thing, right? If you guys are in crypto, you're most likely mentally ill, and I'm gonna count myself as mentally ill for even being here right now. We're trying to give meme tokens away for free to people who have never had any crypto before, any meme token, and you guys should be kissing my ass because I'm trying to do something dope.
So things were not off to a very good start. Everything was already going off the rails before Coffee could even speak, and things just went further downhill from here.
CoffeeZilla.
I'm just trying to figure out who owns it.
You know how much it costs for lawyer fees to create a foundation in the Cayman Islands to hire directors. You think this stuff pays for itself?
So who made the money? You haven't answered the question. Who made the money? How much did Hailey Welch make of that 1.8 million?
It's a foundation that is running this project.
How much does she own of it?
It's a foundation. She owns zero of the foundation.
So y'all made the money?
No, I don't own the foundation either.
I only do this for a living. I've only seen 1 million of these projects.
So who pays you, Copyzilla? Let's.
Ooh, turn it around. Turn it around. Turn it around. Nobody's here for me. Everyone's here for you.
So yeah, basically nothing was answered in that Twitter space, and eventually they muted CoffeeZilla. But after this, he was contacted by Tuah Girl, or Hailey Welch's entertainment lawyer, and they went over the sort of specifics of the contract without actually showing the contract, so it's probably all lies.
Screenshots, they say she was paid in advance from a company to handle the token marketing dev launch of $125,000. That's the only money she's seen to date. If you have any specific questions, happy to answer. I said, what company was she paid by? What's the agreement? Did she see a cut of the pre-sale or fees from the liquidity pool? Christian replies, she was supposed to get 50% of net proceeds after payments of costs to third parties. Is that the 18 employees or whatever they have? I don't know. I don't know what costs they have.
It was after this that Tuah Girl took a very long nap. Then she came back with a podcast with FaZe Banks. But this episode was supposed to be canceled because he didn't want any chance of market manipulation, but it just so happened to get leaked, and everyone was rugged for a second time.
The podcast was not supposed to go live. They f***ed it up every step of the way. They leaked the podcast, and then they f***ing posted it when it was supposed to be canceled. They f***ed it up twice, and the third was the launch itself.
Because Banks released this. He said, I agreed to do her first podcast back. I had heavy stipulations of not letting the market get manipulated. I think that's basic. Her team finding a real solution regarding the money she made. Those were non-starters. These people leaked or insider traded the token. We noticed a random spike in volume on the coin the day we did the podcast, along with random messages asking if we did the podcast. So are you guys getting this? Somebody front ran the podcast to buy up all the coins because they knew, ooh, everyone's going to like it when they release this podcast. Let's front run the coin, which is just horrible. It's like, what, do you want to re-victimize people?
So I'd say that's a little suspicious. They do a podcast, suddenly the market of this coin starts to fluctuate when it was pretty much dead before. Now I understand why the Tuah team would want to release this because, well, they want to front run the coin and they want to help her image because FaZe Banks and his team were very charitable to her the entire time.
We're a little bit more charitable than Coffee. I think Coffee kind of has a little bit of disdain for crypto in general. Us, on the other hand, we live and breathe it every day. We want to see crypto succeed.
I kind of felt bad for her, right? From this leaked show. Here's Dexerto saying, Hailey Welch broke down in tears while talking about the alleged rug pull of her.
I want to start by saying thank you to all my true fans and all the people that actually watch my stuff and they keep up with me. We're trying to sort out all the pieces and stuff to like get all this figured out and make everything right. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry.
No, don't cry. Don't cry. Don't cry. Everything's gonna be good. We're gonna be good.
No, you're not. FaZe Banks. FaZe Banks canceled the episode.
I believe that is one of the clips that they were going to leak regardless on if they were going to leak the whole podcast, but as Coffee points out later, this is supposed to be leaked, but it was edited with a sponsor.
You don't like do all the work if you think it might get canned. Like, obviously, right? These people not only edited the show, they put an ad in the leaked version of the episode, okay? So I'm not saying it didn't leak. I'm saying it's highly convenient.
So why would you insert your sponsor in a video you were planning to never upload? As someone who edits their own videos, if I didn't think something was going to be posted, then I would not take all that time and effort to edit it. I'm sorry.
Who was supposed to make the money? Right? That's always the question in a case like this. That's what the boogeyman wants to know. I I got to know who to scare.
CoffeeZilla got on there. That scary guy, let me tell you. Don't ever want to have a conversation with him.
There was a certain thing she said that confused me because I've heard two things. I've heard Hailey Welch is getting half of everything, which is she's not the mark. She's like one of the main players. Or two, she's basically getting $125K and nothing else. Well, I heard this during the show and it made me think, interesting.
Like half the money, it was supposed to go like into my charity. That's really why I agreed to do it.
Did you hear that?
Like half the money.
Half the money. Now that's very interesting. That's very different from what we've been told, which is like, oh, it's just 125K.
Now, to sort of recap where we're at here is, just now, according to Hailey Welch, 50% was supposed to go to charity, but previously the lawyer had said that she was only to get 5%.
And he says something he's been saying the whole time. As I've said, the 50% of net proceeds, that's apparently what she's talking about, half the money, was from the mutually agreed upon allocation of tokens. 10% locked for 1 year with a 3-year vest thereafter. Memetic, which is Doc Hollywood, was to get the other 50% of the 10%. So not 50%, only like 5%, 1 year locked up. That's a terrible deal if you guys don't know that. And then he says her intention was to give her side to charity. We never got far enough down the road to make those questions.
Now, a little bit after that exchange with the lawyer, Coffee decides to bring out a screenshot that is allegedly, I'll say, what Doc Hollywood said before the launch, oddly enough stating 50-50 split between him and Hailey Welch.
This is from Doc Hollywood himself, which, if you remember, is like the key guy. Here he is saying, we'll do best to make it as simple as possible. The pre-sale raise is 50-50 Project Hailey. Fees for market making and LP is split between us and Hailey 50-50. Now that's a very, very different story than I've been told.
There was a 10% allocation of the token that would be on a 1-year lock and then a 3-year drip after that. Of that 10%, half of that was supposed to go to the company that created the project and half was to go to her. So out of 100% of the token, she would have had 5% at the end.
This guy says, I think you can safely distrust anything coming from Doc Hollywood's mouth. He's denying it.
And now, at this point, the lawyer's just going full denial. But funnily enough, he was there and he said he negotiated the contract.
I then say, you said on the podcast you negotiated the contract personally.
I negotiated the contract with the company.
I don't get why Hailey would benefit from such a bad contract if what you said is true. And this is really how I feel. Half of 10% of tokens plus 125K makes 0 sense for someone who's bringing in all of the name recognition. Oh, it's just 50% of the 10%. 50% of the tiny amount of tokenomics we're gonna get. No. What he's saying here, finally he's giving us the real story. It's 50% of the net proceeds of the project, period. That is completely different from what they've told me. And so I say 50% of the net proceeds does not mean half of 10%. It means 50% of net proceeds, which is market making, pre-sale. This is like $4 million that they talked about.
So as you can hear and see, the lawyer completely backtracked. On the podcast and on the initial messages between him and CoffeeZilla, he said the same thing, that she was to get this very small amount. So half of 10%, and then she would pay everything with that 5%, which is ridiculous. And to be fair to her, I don't think she's that dumb to sign something like that. So it seems like they were trying to play victim, like, oh, she was fooled by these people.
A lot of plausible stories here. Now, I really don't believe anything they tell me at this point, but I could be convinced that this might be the case. Maybe it's the case that Hawk to his team was under the impression that all these pre-sale investors were locked up for a month, right? That's what they told me. Again, I don't believe them necessarily, but it's plausible, right? I asked him, when did you learn that the insiders had 0 lockups? He says, when they started dumping. I was told all along the SAFs had a 1-month lock, 1-year linear vest thereafter. I can tell you what I think happened, but I don't have any way of proving it without seeing the SAFs. I have the SAFs, so I can tell you what happened. The pitch deck did say it was a 1-month lockup, okay? And then you get the SAFs, the actual token agreements with like the real investors. No lockup. Wah, wah. That's how it all kind of went down, fellas. They lied and they deceived people with fake investment lockups. Like, they gave a pitch deck that was not really what the pitch deck ultimately turned out to be.
So this was the final nail in the Tuah coffin. It can't get any more black and white than that they lied on their tokenomics page and their SAF said something different. So regardless on if it was an accident or not, best case scenario, be negligence, but I don't believe that, personally. To sort of summarize everything, put a little bow on it, Tuah's career is probably done. She already took a few month nap, came back, and this is now a nightmare for her. With her sort of content, to me, is built on trust. I don't think the Tuah Girl's gonna have that trust anymore, so we'll see. We'll see what happens from here. I think the moral of the story should be, don't scam your fans. And if you are truly unknowledgeable about crypto, do not start your own currency. That should be common sense. And I do feel bad for anyone who invested in this without the knowledge we have now. They were targeting people who were completely unaware of the space. But please let me know what you think down in the comments below. I am very sorry for the long hiatus once again. Life does life things, but I'll keep trying to do what I do, and I hope you keep coming back. And with that, I will see you all next time. Bye!
To be honest, I was just trying to pipe.